What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? Okay, hey, this is like several weeks apart. This is the third episode, hence why I am in the same shirt. I meant for studio changes. I did bring a wardrobe change, but no, this is the third episode, and it's going to be another fire episode. Guess what? Again, connections, man. Another shout out for my guy, Steve Ziskowski. I know you're listening on some hike, some walk somewhere. So I love you, brother. So I got an email one day that I need to connect with Trae because she'd be a great guest on Coffee and Grit. In a couple episodes or maybe 2 hours ago, Michael Berry said, you never know where a connection is going to go. And that's so true. So we connected really, really well. And it's now been, I don't even know, was that September? I meant to look and see when that was. October, we connected.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. We didn't even talk about the podcast for the longest time. We just kind of like fell into connection, and we've been doing some work together. So I started coaching her on her business, and she started, and we working together and taking my photos. And so we've been able to get some stuff out there and releasing, but it's just been an awesome connection. Like Steve knew, like he always does, he knows how to connect people, but it came back around finally for Trae to be on the show because there is a lot of really cool stuff to talk about. And Trae is one of those unicorns that has, the entrepreneur background, but just brings that coaching and that eye along with experience and all the stuff. So Trae, welcome to the show.
Oh, that is so kind of you to say all those things. I'm super excited to be here, and I know it's been a super long time coming, but I can't wait to just talk about all the things.
Yeah. So we've talked about how, you kind of had that entrepreneurial bug spirit. You've watched your family.
Yes, my entire family. So it started with my grandpa. So when he retired from Ford's, he was like, okay, I need to do something. And he pursued finishing carpentry and just had a side hustle before a side hustle was a thing.
Yeah.
And my dad, when he came home from Vietnam, he apprenticed under his uncle, learning the car detailing business. And before long, he branched out on his own. And that was over 50 years ago. So from my grandpa to my dad, and now so many cousins and aunts and uncles are also entrepreneurs. So I was raised in it, sitting at the kitchen table with mom and dad, listening to business talk.
Yeah.
From the time that I could recall, listening in on business stuff. My mom's like, well, she started out as a car salesman. So she has that sales in her. She has Pampered Chef now. She just loves helping people. And I feel like, that's where I kind of fell in love with that entrepreneur spirit and helping people. Yeah.
We haven't even talked about this. Like your mom was a car salesperson?
Yeah.
Like that's like...
Yes. She was into car sales for a while there. And she had babies and had to kind of shift. And before Pinterest was a thing, she would go into people's houses and teach them how to make wreaths and crafts. So they would pay her to buy the supplies, and she would teach them how to make this wreath or swag that they saw in Home Interiors or one of those 80s catalogs that they couldn't maybe afford and wanted to have the camaraderie of getting together. So she was doing DIY workshops before Martha. It's crazy. It's so crazy. So like my passion for being creative and seeing a niche market or understanding that something could happen from nothing. Yeah. That's where I come from.
So tell me about that. 'Cause I know you've created several things from nothing.
Yes. So, I started my first business. Now I have to give you a backstory. So my husband and I were dating, and as we're getting closer, like we got engaged, then we're moving towards marriage. And 3 months before we're going to be married, he loses his job, just got laid off. 3 months. The first 9 months of our marriage, no job. He is interviewing, he is looking for work, nothing. And at that time, I was a caregiver, so taking care of the elderly in their homes, helping them stay at home because I'm a helper. Yeah. I love to do that. And I knew how to knit. I had that skill. I had, entrepreneur parents. And so a friend of mine who's a photographer was like, have you ever thought about knitting and selling your things on this website called Etsy? And I was like, not really, because Etsy wasn't even a thing, right? So she's like, yeah, people are making these tiny little items for babies and pictures, this thing called newborn photography. I was like, okay, I guess I'll try that. I've got yarn laying around. So I bought a book of patterns, which were all too big and didn't work, but I just put myself to it and made a couple things and took some pictures, and the pictures were really bad. Like, we all start somewhere, and if this is for you, everybody starts somewhere. But growing from that, and kind of developed a couple of things that hadn't been done before, for the industry specifically. And within 2 years, I was like a worldwide brand and had pulled in 6 figures, which is nuts to make 6 figures knitting. Tiny little things for babies.
Off of something that somebody was like, hey, you might be able to do this.
Hey, maybe you could do this. And I will tell you, because I feel like it needs to be said deeply, that like I received so much feedback and negative feedback, like it doesn't fit, or this color vibrates off of the baby skin tone, or this yarn isn't really soft. So I would cry about it because I'm very sensitive. I'd cry, and then I'd make it better. Mm-hmm. And this one particular photographer, love her to death, her name is Kristen. We're still friends. I was in her wedding. She was the first one to say, hey, I really love what you designed, but it doesn't fit at all. And she took pictures because she cared and wanted me to grow.
Yeah.
And I feel like being open to that feedback,
yes,
and learning and growing from it.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was my first business. So I started out doing product photography with my husband's camera. And then buying another camera, getting better equipment, doing pop-up shops. I was one of the first newborn vendors to do pop-up shops. It's not a revolutionary idea, but in that market, no one was doing it. Yeah.
So you took something in another market.
Right. Yeah. And so they would have newborn workshops. And I made sure to market to all of the teachers, all of the coaches. And once I had the teachers and coaches, it was really easy to sell my items to the people that they were teaching. Right. Yeah. So I don't have a background in marketing, but I just kind of instinctively feel and know things from watching my parents as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And trying things and not being afraid to fail or take risks. Like, I'm a super big risk taker. It terrifies my husband. He's like, no, we're not doing that. I tried to launch into the maternity realm to do maternity dresses, and it was an epic fail. But I had to try it.
Yeah.
I had to try it.
Well, because if not, you're probably sitting there right to this day wondering if it will work, right?
I would be. I would have been just second guessing myself. And what if I had tried, and what if it had been successful? So yeah. I'm a real person. Yeah. I am afraid to fail, but I just push myself past the fear because we have to.
You have to, to your point, you're going to fail. Yeah. The people are going to tell you this hat doesn't fit. This yarn is not soft enough. All the different things, right? The color sucks, whatever.
Yeah.
And I love how cry about it first and then make it better.
You are allowed to be sad for 15 minutes or an hour or a day. Give yourself a time limit. Yep. Be sad. Wallow. Eat the ice cream and then get over it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Because we can take that moment and say, this is a bad day when it was just a bad moment.
Yes.
Or it was just a bad experience. You know, how long? So I think giving yourself a time limit to be sad is good. Feel the feeling. Just do the next thing.
And I love how you said it that way, feel the feeling, because I do think it's important to feel the feeling. You do have to get past the emotion sometimes. When that emotion is so strong, you got to cry it out. Take a nap. Go do whatever you do to cope with that and give yourself that hour, 2 hours. If it's a day, cool. Hopefully you don't make it a week.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Week, it's too long.
Write it down. It's definitely too long. But you know what's helpful is surrounding yourself with people that let you feel it and then say, come on, let's go.
Yes.
Let's get to the next step because we can do this together.
Yes.
And that's definitely something that I feel like you subscribe to. You encourage people. You are who you surround yourself with. I think I've heard you say that a couple times, which I receive deeply because that's true.
It is.
And so if you're gonna be around people that want the wallow longer than it should wallow, regroup.
Victims are gonna victim no matter what.
Yes, yes.
They will victim no matter if you approach them nicely, if you approach them, no matter how you approach them. So why worry?
Yes, exactly. It's true.
But yeah, if you're around people that are wallowing too much, like you probably want to move because you're gonna find yourself doing the same exact thing. It's just how it works.
And I feel like everything in business has been this divine timing for me, that there has been an element that if I would have tried to start this business now, the knitting business, it wouldn't have the same effect as it did then.
Yeah.
So I truly, deeply believe that that God has a timing for things, and to let things lie sometimes and not to push. Don't get me wrong, I'm a risk taker and I am a pusher.
Yeah.
But I also know, like, we tried to schedule this a couple times and it just fell through and didn't work. And I was like, that's okay, because there is a time that this is going to be perfect and prime for it.
It's so true. We need to be patient and open to that, because there is a perfect timing. How do you know when it's time to move on? Because I think it's a very valuable thing. You especially starting a business, you start a business and you're making money, you're making six figures. You could ride that into bankruptcy.
Yes. I think a lot of it has to do with the joy element for me.
Ooh.
When it starts to lose its joy, when it becomes mechanical, I might have a touch of ADHD because I like to have a lot of irons in the fire. I have a couple businesses, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I think when it's lost its joy, and then you kind of do the math, right? Like, you can be cut and dry and say, okay, this is not giving me joy, and then look at your dollar per hour, because let's be business minded. And if it's just a suck of time and a suck of money, maybe it's time to shift. And I think that's why I do like to have a lot of options open, because you just never know when it's going to shift for you.
So true. That's an even better answer than I probably could have expected. This is so true. Like, when the joy level, when you're not happy with it anymore, that's the true answer.
And I think that's what's different from our generation than from the boomers.
Yeah.
Than from even, well, I don't know where you feel like you fall, but
I'm a Gen Xer,
okay.
So I'm the coolest of all.
See,
I'm the hybrid.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Have you heard about the in-betweeners, the in-between the Xers and the millennials? That's where I fall.
Okay.
These 4 golden years.
What years?
It's like 74 to 81.
I make it. I'm in 79. Okay.
Yeah. We're
right.
Same year.
Okay. Nice.
Clearly.
That's so we get along. Yeah.
So much in common because we weren't raised with the internet, but we had it at the tail end of high school and college. We've lived a different life, but I don't want to get stuck like the boomers where they had one job their whole entire life. There's stability in that. That's awesome. But I wonder how many of them lost their joy along the way.
Yeah.
Probably a lot.
A lot.
I think we probably see that. And I think we are learning from our parents, from watching that generation going, okay, I think we can do things differently.
Yes.
I think we can shift. I think we can make changes to better ourselves and the life that we're creating, not just for us only, but for our families and then our communities and the world. Because if we're more joy-filled, oh my goodness.
You think about everything. Like, you can create a 6-figure business because you enjoy it and you have the passion. You can go out and sell even if you don't have selling skills per se. I've seen people that say they're horrible salespeople. They just have that passion and drive, and they want to help people. And so they're able to go out there and be successful. But if you put them in a sales environment selling something they didn't care about, they would be horrible. They'd be horrible. Yeah,
completely awful. That's totally true. You have to believe in what you're doing and what you're selling, because it's not really sales, right?
Yes.
Like, I just like to help people. Like, I was helping those photographers solve the problem of there are no specific items that you can buy in a store that will have that super tight, perfect fit for a newborn head, for a headband or a bonnet, or even when you get your tiny little human baby, it's like swimming in whatever outfit it is. I mean, these women that I collaborate with, they make tiny, tight-fitting things so that the baby looks like this tiny little doll. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So we saw a niche and a market and we went for it.
It's fine. It's one of those things too. And I started this the other day. We limit our kids so much, and think about like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a policeman. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a professional athlete. I want to be a teacher, nurse, doctor, lawyer. There's like these 6, 7 categories.
No. Yeah.
Nobody ever told you that like you could go and create a business, taking pictures of
So I make things that aren't even supposed to be worn every day. Like the things that I make are created for the image, and then they're put away somewhere delicately because it's very fragile, and like a hand roll all the flowers, and they're like dried, and it's like this perfect, beautiful thing, and it's not meant for everyday use.
Yeah.
If anyone would have told me, I would have been like, "You're crazy," because who's going to buy that? Crazy. Who's going to buy something that is not meant to be like worn? But yeah, you're right. The opportunities are limitless.
Yes. Yeah, it's just solving problems.
It is. And maybe finding a problem someone didn't know they had.
Yes.
Or seeing it differently. Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, like, so you're right, because a lot of times we focus on the common problems and we go and solve, but like there are those things that are, we talk about niche, like we talk about scarcity in business a lot, but like the more you niche down, you're talking about like extreme niches that you're working with. Some people don't even know that this stuff exists.
Right.
I didn't know it existed.
No.
You wouldn't think about normal common day that this is happening.
No. Or even that it would be a possibility.
And you were able to create a business that made 6 figures.
Yes, 6 figers.
That's incredible.
In a year, not over a time period.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I never thought it was possible. When I started doing it, and I do believe, like I mentioned before, like there is a God element to it, like the perfect timing, the right things all coming together for that even to happen. And I will say I don't even really take credit for that, honestly, because I feel like that was just a God thing that happened that lined up everything perfectly.
Well, but there'll be more things that line up perfectly, but you have to spot the opportunity.
Definitely.
So there's the God thing in the sense that the opportunity is there in your face, but you as the human have to recognize it and execute. Do it.
Yes.
Because you could sit with that idea forever until it's too late and you've missed that timing.
Yes. I have lots of different ideas in my head and working on executing a couple more things because this doesn't shut off. Just, like we've said, I have a bad habit of just making money off of hobbies and ideas that I have that I'm just like, well, I don't think anyone's doing it this way. What if I tried that?
Yes. So speaking of that, because it's finding the different things, right?
Yeah.
Finding problems.
Yes.
And we talk about the history of your family being an entrepreneurs and
definitely.
how do small businesses and entrepreneurs really market themselves like a big company. You think about the big companies and you see the images, you see the videos, you see the commercials.
Right.
How does a small business owner do that?
I think that's a great question, especially for right now, this time, this age, because everything is digital, right? It's great that we can get together like this and connect in person, but the majority of people are connecting online. And what we put out online is what people see. And that's where I come in as a photographer with this deep, rich history and heritage in being an entrepreneur myself and my family. So I'm helping people tell their brand stories through photography, through, social media sized reels, helping them take one less thing off their list. I recently talked to an entrepreneur who said, well, I spend about a month getting all that together. I was like, wow, that's a lot of time that you're allotting to that. And I could really free up that time for you. Now, maybe it's a perfect time for you to say, yes, I'm ready to hire someone to take this off my plate, or maybe it's not. And who am I to say when that time is? I just want to serve people and help them. And, I think the way that I'm doing it a little bit differently is I'm helping them create their own stock photos that they own forever.
Yes.
And helping them have their own gallery, their own library to go to and say, oh, this is me doing this job, not Barbara the actress or whoever the stand-in is in the stock image. And, for those of you that don't know, stock images don't really have weight in the web landscape because they're used hundreds of thousands of times over and over. So to use a stock image is great as a placeholder, but you really need to have your own work on your website, your own images. And then with you owning them, that's going to be huge for you because you can reuse it.
Well, who are you and what kind of work do you do if you don't have your own images? I had this client who was a web designer and he was complaining to me about how he was getting just offers to do work for exposure. If you build my website for me, I'll get you a bunch of exposure. He's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm highly skilled at what I do. I demand a high cost, but I keep getting these people that want to give me exposure. And then he started talking about how he was posting other people's content all the time.
Oh.
Well, yeah, you're posting other people's content.
Yeah.
They think that you're
starting out.
They think that you're starting out. And so I said, it's kind of one of those things. If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? If you're if you're posting content that's not yours, does it matter?
Yeah.
No. Like, just for people to, like, you think about, and I just recently posted one of my pictures that you took.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things, when you post one of those pictures, people see you differently, right?
Yes.
They see this, like, they see the branded photo.
Yes.
It looks professional, and then everybody comments, everybody likes it. It brings it into this, people start thinking about you.
Well, and they start thinking about you in connection with your brand.
Yes.
And I think that's something that people are afraid of, being the face of their brand, and maybe as business owners, we're kind of used to hiding behind the stock photos or hiding behind our work instead of being a little more upfront about, hey, this is me and I'm a part of my business and we're connected. I think people want to have their self and their business, and those two, when they're deeply connected, that's when branding starts working. And that's when you can tell a story, and it's not just, here's my product, buy my product.
Yes.
And that's what I'm helping people do, is deeply connect through images of themselves at work, of their products. And that's how I got my start with product photography, with sharing who I am and what I was doing.
Like, you did it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like you branded yourself. You were able to do what you did because you branded yourself.
Exactly. And so I see the direct success coming from that.
And now you're able to go and take it and show other people how to do it.
Yes. And there's a different level that I'm doing it at too. It's not just, oh, I'm taking a picture, click, click, click. When you're hiring me, you're also hiring someone who's passionate about small business, someone who knows exactly where you're coming from, someone who can talk to you. And, I'm not going to like heavy hand coach you, but we're going to have these conversations about what are we trying to tell here? What is the story? What do you want to convey? What do you want to be known as? And then fashioning your session around that. Not saying, here's my studio, come insert yourself into this.
Yeah.
I really like shooting on location. I really love doing, working with the hardworking business owner. The people that are out there getting their hands dirty are usually the people that don't have time to like snap a photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who's documenting what they're doing.
And I'm sure there's really cool photos in the grime and in the dirt.
Exactly.
And, doing what they do on a daily basis.
I want to be the dirty jobs photographer. Hire me. Nice. I want to come get dirty. Well, maybe not, maybe not that way. I didn't mean it that way. I did not mean it that way. But I mean, yes, just the hardworking people that are out there, landscape architects, plumbers, all the things.
It's huge. And at the very beginning, I talked about you being a unicorn, and it's because, like, no matter what the profession, you find it's very hard to find people that listen, that ask questions, and that then get it, get it, understand who you are. And, I've been told by so many people that have worked with me, like, it's been kind of a reoccurring thing. Like, I was like, when I look at your pictures, I don't see you.
Yes.
I've worked with you, and like, you're so approachable, you're so magnetic, or you have this energy, you have this thing. And then I see your pictures and I'm like, that's not you. Yeah. And so when I started working with you and you're talking about like, I'll come out in this natural environment, it's like, wow, that's so incredibly valuable, because one, people don't understand how I plug in with teams. And so to get pictures kind of like in that environment and plugging in, that's huge. But my biggest goal, even outside of that, was just getting pictures that was like, spoke me. And so you got to know me, and then literally you came out to my client and I only had 20 minutes between meetings. And I was like, oh my God, how's this going to happen? And you took it, you calm me down.
Yes.
You got amazing photos.
Yes.
And like I made it my photo for everything, you know, like
I love that.
I love all my photos, but that one is
Yes.
just like, this one screams me.
It
you
does.
know?
It does. And I think getting to know you, taking the time to get to know you. I'm not a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. You know, and I do have
You come to get dirty, but you're not a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. So we'll tie that one together.
But I also feel like I have like this big sister energy because I'm a firstborn. So I want to help you and like, let's get it done. Let's tackle your problem. And this is something too that I know that I'm different in. I don't set time limits for my sessions because I don't want to have that expectation hanging over our heads together.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to use as much or as little time because sometimes it takes 20 minutes. You know, we can get the job done.
We get so many different shots and so many different scenes across Ypsilanti in 20 minutes. It was insane.
And I think, you know, I have that eye for this can look different if we just move here and here and here and here. And there's so many different shots that can happen in a very close scenario that we don't have to. I mean, I would love it if you wanted to like jet off to New York or somewhere, you know, cool. And like, let's get this, that'd be awesome. But there's a lot of different spots in your everyday life that will look awesome from a different perspective, from my perspective.
And
you know?
key, it's your everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not in New York every day in a suit, you probably shouldn't be taking pictures in New York every day in a suit. Represent your brand.
Exactly.
And
where you are.
My photos were great, but it was pre-pandemic. And I was wearing a suit in most of them. Yeah. And like, let's be honest, I'm wearing a hoodie most days. Like, I was like, I've grown very comfortable with myself and my logo and what I wear. And like, I'll wear a suit if I'm going to a speaking event or something that requires it. But I'm not wearing that.
You shouldn't, because that just doesn't
I did
feel like you.
I did do a speaking event in the summer, and I showed up in shorts and a polo. Yes. And one of the guys, it was super funny. He was like, "Are you seriously in it?" He was like,
"Yes, I am."
He was like, "You're the speaker," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You seriously showed up in shorts and a polo?" I'm like, "I sure did."
If that's my
brand.
I'm
like, "That's me." I'm like, "I'm not gonna pretend who I am."
Yes.
And then he literally booked a session with me at the end. It was the coolest thing in the world. I was like,
amazing.
He was like,
when you step into who you were created to be, and who God made you to be. That's when it happens. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, though. I like wearing suits every now and then. But that photo representing me 100% of the time, when I wear a suit, like 10% maybe. Like, I don't know. Like,
I think there's a time and a place and like appropriateness for the occasion, for sure. I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
But when you're your brand,
be your brand.
Be your brand.
Show up where you're showing up.
Yes. And in the area that you're in too, right? Like we just walked outside from where you're doing your training, your talk or whatever. And it was like, yep, here we are. Let's do it.
And then we ran inside, took some pictures with the client. Done. Boom, boom, boom.
Yes. And that's how easy it can be. I really like to take the stress away. Yeah. And I know you're stressed, but hopefully I made it easy.
You made it super easy. I had a lot of energy going in, you know, like back in, and it was super pumped. And it was, I was stressed more or less, like hopefully we can make it in your time and all that kind of stuff. But it was like I said, nailed it. But then I have the photos to put out.
Yes.
And it's again, when you have that content, you know, when you're working with your clients and they have the content they can constantly put out there. And I know I don't have a marketing department. Yeah. Which is hence, and it took me a couple of weeks even to get the photo out because I was like scrambling around doing other stuff, right? And so that's the key is like, I know you like to partner with teams that have a marketing person that you can then.
Right. And that's when we can be a powerhouse. That's when we can be an amazing team together because a lot of solo entrepreneurs aren't quite sure what their story is. Yeah. And it's really helpful to work with a marketing team that knows what the story is. They've got this developed plan over the next year of what we're going to do, what we're going to tell, the story we're going to tell together. And then I can just come in and seamlessly help and get connected with the team and know the story we're going to tell. And it can just be that easy.
Trae, it's so awesome because it's literally, and I've mentioned a few times, but it's the experience. Yeah. You know, it's your story and your experience, but like that you've done this yourself to have success in business and then plugging it in. But just you, being able to listen and hear is a big differentiator for you. You know, in just the fun stuff of like getting into the business coaching aspect and thinking about it. Like Brian Truskowski, man, you get so many shout outs on the show. Like, but literally it's so cool. I was sitting with him for coffee a couple weeks ago and he was like, oh my God, Trae ran this idea by me. And it was like game changing. And he has flyers out. He's
I know.
moving to Traverse City to do this thing. And
we just connected for coffee, and he was like, you have no idea how you've changed things for me. And I was like, I don't think I did anything.
what was the piece that you gave him? What was...
I was talking to him about being an ecotherapist.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but I just feel like you and who you are needs to be in nature with people, helping them heal, helping them walk through trauma or whatever they're going through. Because when you're in an office, that's just not you. And now that's what he's doing. Like, he's like, I'm moving to this remote, like location.
Yeah.
To like,
it's a resort or like a campground or something like that.
Like a retreat area and to like help people. And I was like, mind blowing.
And he's literally
now it's like a destination.
ecotherapy.
Yes.
And then he was like ecotherapy. And I'm like, go into the and get lost in the woods to find yourself. And he was like, he literally took the combo and ran with it.
Yes, I know. How many more people could we help together?
No, I know, but and that's what's really fun is because I know that is on our horizon, and like that's our next chapter. So it's gonna be so fun. You'll be back on the show talking about that as we continue our relationship and continue our journey
for sure.
And I can see how it's coming together in just a few relationships already. Mm-hmm. But Brian, people can go back. He's been a guest twice on the show, in both conversations, he's talked about trying to figure out what he is and his passions and his skills. And
oh my goodness,
bringing it into a thing.
Yes.
And then in one day of meeting him, you were like, "Hey, how about this?" And so that's what to wrap it in, because I know I know we're pushing Grant's time here. So to wrap up, when you work with Trae, like you're literally getting that like. What's that thought process, and also someone that's going to be with you and see who you truly are. Yes. And get that out of you.
And I want people to go deeper. I do.
Deeper.
Yep. And I want to, and I think too, like having these deep connections with people is so important to me. And I want that to be a part of my business too. Like I'm a passionate, emotional, sensitive person. And that's how I create the images that I create. By getting to know someone on this deep level and then being able to transform that into an image. And then that's going to connect you with your ideal clients, with the people you're trying to draw in. When you're authentically you, who you were created to be, it's just going to happen.
It does. It pulls in the people that want to be around who you truly are.
Yeah. And it all goes back to your whole saying of surrounding your people. And I feel like we can attract those people by authentically being who we were created to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you were there when we were having the conversation. I've used this as an example so many times where we were talking about grief and like one person left and everybody else kind of pulled in and we had a great conversation. I met people that I'd never met before, and the people that don't want to be there and don't want to be a part of that, they leave.
Yeah.
And the people that do will pull in closer.
Yes. And I think it solidifies that group, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Trae, I'm so glad it finally worked out.
I know, me too. This was awesome.
This is so awesome. So awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, this was great. I'm excited to come back again.
Yes. No, absolutely.